I'm joined by Mr. Prabhu Dayal, who's been a former ambassador. Mr. Dayal, good afternoon. Thank you for taking our time and joining us over here at Mirror Now. We have been keeping our focus primarily on the strained ties between India and Canada for a while now, because every second day we see that Canada tries to provoke India by the statements that are being issued by their leaders and ministers and the office bearers. But I want to ask you, Mr. Dayal, in your so many years of experience as an ambassador, how does this work? Where on one hand, you're going to continue with your baseless allegation against India and assert your position when it comes to Niger skilling. And on the other hand, you want to hold India close by saying that India is crucial and important, and therefore you would want to pursue the Indo-Pacific strategic partnership with India. Does it work this way? Can it go hand in hand?
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for having me on your show. Frankly, what Canada is doing amounts to doublespeak. On the one hand, there are important people in the government who are saying that the relationship with India is very important. And on the other hand, right up to the Prime Minister, there are allegations which continue to be made, which say that Canada has credible intelligence, which indicates that Indian agents or Indian government agents carried out the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. What India has asked for is evidence. We have said, if you're making an allegation which is so grave, can you give us the evidence which backs up the allegation? Canada has not given any evidence because it does not have any evidence. It has some intelligence which it has gathered from maybe some human sources or through surveillance, through some electronic means, but it must be so weak that it is afraid to come out with it. So, to put the matter in a nutshell, Canada doesn't have the evidence to back its allegations, and on account of this, there is a steady deterioration in the bilateral relationship. Let me also underline the fact that what Justin Trudeau has been doing is indulging in this game of vote bank politics. Firstly, he relies on the external support of the new Democratic Party, which is headed by Jagmeet Singh, and without whose support the Trudeau government would fall. To have a majority in the Canadian Parliament, a political party must have 170 seats at the very least. Justin Trudeau in the 2021 elections only got 160 seats. So how was he able to form the government? He formed the government because he got support from outside, from Jagmeet Singh's party. Now, this makes him beholden. And Jagmeet Singh is a strong backer of the Khalistani extremists. So Justin Trudeau has to dance to the tune which is played by Jagmeet Singh. Then, to make things worse, Canada is going
But Mr. Dayal, does the Canadian government and the Prime Minister over there, Trudeau, does not factor in that how this is going to impact not only the India-Canadian ties, but it's also going to impact the Indian diaspora in Canada, which constitutes a large part of the Canadian population and contributes also to their economy in a big way. Will this not also have an adverse impact on that?
Well, it will certainly have an adverse impact, but does Justin Trudeau realize this? For him, what is uppermost in his mind is how to continue being Prime Minister. And therefore, he's making blunders because he is making compromises with those people who backseat extremists. Will it have an impact on the Indian diaspora in Canada? Yes, certainly. There are a very large number of Indian students who are there in Canadian universities, and certainly there is a sense of worry among them. That worry may be a distraction when it comes down to pursuing their studies. Their parents here in India are also worried. Then again, the Canadian Indians, Indians who have become Canadian citizens, are also divided. Not all the Sikhs support the Khalistani network. Not the entire Indian community comprises of these extremist Khalistani Sikhs. The vast majority do not subscribe to their thinking, but the extremists wield some menace because of the fact that they have guns. They use the guns. There is a lot of gang warfare which goes on amongst these extremists, and this fact is very well known. And India has repeatedly highlighted to the government of Canada the dangers which these Sikh extremists pose not only to India but to Indians living in Canada also. But unfortunately, the Justin Trudeau government has simply overlooked whatever we have tried to point out.
But Mr. Dayal, what about the other nations like the US, the UK and the Australia? While the US also in a sense has stepped in to say that India needs to tread the path very carefully and work closely with Canada when it comes to the allegations leveled against India is concerned. But Canada seems to be isolated. They're not really getting the endorsement from many of these other global nations.
What Canada and the US are claiming is that some intelligence was provided to Canada through the Five Eyes net. Now, these Five Eyes are the 5 English-speaking democracies: US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand. And Sikh extremists are extremely active in all these 5 countries. So whatever is being passed on in the sense that there is some intelligence is highly colored. It is mischievous, whatever is being touted as intelligence, because had it been credible enough, surely it would have been shared with us. There is no doubt that there will be an impact, and an adverse impact at that, on the relations which Canada has with India. And in fact, if the US has now started saying that India should cooperate with the Canadian investigation, thereby implying that what the Canadians are trying to say has some truth in it, then surely this might also queer the pitch of India's relations with the United States. So it's a very tricky phase. The US is being very careful. But I personally think that the statement made by Tony Blinken was not at all proper, because it put the onus on India, whereas he should have asked Canada to furnish the evidence if it has made allegations against him.
Absolutely, Mr. Dayal. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us over here at Mirror Now as we discuss the strained ties between India and Canada.